welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 79th episode, our guest is Erica Roman. You first heard Erica Roman on episode 69 of the podcast. Here is her biography. My name is Erica Roman. My life was forever changed on April 18th, 2016, when my husband of 7 years and the love of my life died unexpectedly of an undetected heart condition, leaving me and our 1-year-old daughter behind. A couple days after the funeral, I discovered that I was pregnant with our son. I would have never imagined that I would end up a 27-year-old pregnant widow. As I process my own healing journey through writing, it is my heart to be able to encourage others in their own struggles and bring understanding to those who have hurting people in their lives. You can read her blog at ericaroman.me. That's ERICAROMAN.me. And now on to the show.
Hello?
Hello, hey.
Hi.
Is you good to talk now?
Yes, I'm good. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. My wife actually made homemade Pop-Tarts, so I actually just demolished 2 of those, so I was pretty happy with the little break there, so it's fine. It's all good.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks for coming back on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, did you make it out of Florida before the storms hit? I know you'd just recently moved from there to Tennessee, but did you make it out before all the storms came through?
Yeah. So I moved. I think it was 2.5 weeks before the storm hit, so it was good timing. Ended up going up the West Coast instead of the East Coast, so my family was spared most of the winds, but they still got some of the flooding, and some of them, it's been a couple, they just got their power in the past couple days, so it's been a while without power for some people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's always, for most of the time, Floridians don't care so much about the hurricane. It's the loss of power afterwards that's the true devastation.
Oh, yeah. No, that was, excuse me, that was the thing I saw people saying. It's like, you do all the laundry that you can beforehand because you're going to miss not having power to do laundry afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the not having hot showers and no AC. That's the roughest part. Most of the time what happens is whoever ends up getting power opens up their house and gives showers to all their friends who don't have power yet.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So yeah. How did the move to Tennessee go? I know that you said you'd had some help loading up, but how was it unloading? It seemed like maybe there was a little less help on that end. So
yeah, it was a bit tricky. And I ended up getting a crew to help on the unloading side, but our U-Haul broke down halfway.
Oh, no.
So we were stuck in Georgia for 24 hours with 2 kids. We were literally at a gas station where it broke down. Thankfully, it was at a gas station that it broke down and not on the road, but we were still stuck at a gas station for 7 hours with a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old.
Oh, my gosh.
That was not pleasant. No. So we ended up staying a night just south of Atlanta and making it through the next day. So the crew that I had recruited for Saturday, we weren't able to come on Sunday. So basically I just went to church that morning, half asleep, and was like, "Do y'all want to help me?" And so one of the pastors got a crew together to help unload, which was great because I was too tired to really go around asking too many people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, how are your kids adjusting now, though? Have they settled in with the move and everything?
Yeah, it took a couple weeks for them to just kind of really get into a new routine, but they're doing pretty well now. They're doing pretty well.
Okay. And you're going to school there, is that correct?
Yes. So just finished my second week. So school is all day Monday and all day Tuesday. So I have the rest of the week to do whatever else I need to do. But yeah, so that started actually on my birthday.
Happy birthday.
September 11th.
Awesome. But yeah, so what are you going to school for? What's your focus now?
So it's not like a university or college. It's a ministry school. And so I've been trying to figure out the best way to explain it because it's not like you get a job as a minister at the end of it. The ministry school for me, at least for me personally, it is the goal, not like going through it to get to a goal. Like I just needed to take a season to focus on myself and like working through some of the hurts. And so I figured that one of the best places for that would be to go through 8 months of a ministry school that really is kind of, their focus is on, you know, healing life's hurts essentially. And so really the school isn't really about like a job at the end, although I know a lot of people, like, opportunities have opened up for them and because they went through the school. But for me, really, it's mostly just kind of like taking the time for myself for 8 months to be intentional about just working through some of the places that are still wounded from losing John.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, was this something that you would have done anyway had your life not dramatically changed last year, or is this something that,
Well, okay, so this ministry school they just started the second year. I actually did the first year when I lived in Nashville before, so like 6 years ago. I did year one, and they only added the second year, I think maybe 2 years ago. And when I heard that they did it, I was like, oh, that would be super cool. But, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm in Florida now, so that's probably not something I'll be able to do. But after everything happened, it was one of like the first clear thoughts in my head. I'm like, I'm going to go move back to Nashville and do the second year. Just because I really, the church I go to and the school is hosted by the church. Their real focus is really helping people work through hard things. And so I just knew it would be a good environment to process some of the pain and work through towards healing.
Definitely. And you saying that kind of reminded me of your latest post here, which I thought was a really good one about the shelf. You list a lot of questions you have there, and those aren't small questions that you list. So those are big ones. I'm like, man, that's a list of questions right there. But So have you made any headway with any of those questions? I mean, I can't imagine those are simple to answer. You know what I mean?
No. There really is no. Some of them I'm coming to terms with the fact that it's like there's just not going to be an answer, and some of it's just, I think it's going to take time. So, but the questions are heavy ones, and I've only had 2 weeks of the school, so
you're going to need more than 14 days on this list here.
Right. But that's kind of how I've coped up until now, is just putting those questions up on the shelf and realizing I can't even look at them right now. So before, I couldn't even look at them. Like I had to pretend, like I put them on the shelf and pretend like they didn't exist. Now I'm like, okay, I can look at them. I'm just not sure how much I want to like touch them yet. That makes sense. So, but I'm kind of making myself start to even name them. So even just writing that list of what they were was really helpful in like defining the pain points. As instead of like it's just they're over there somewhere and it's pain over there. Instead of that being kind of just like a general box somewhere, I kind of wanted to intentionally, okay, what are the things that hurt the most? And if I could put a name to them, then I can start working towards healing from them.
Right. And I feel like a lot of them kind of come back to something you'd written about previously, is that you said that in a previous post a couple months ago that you were having trouble trusting God. Is that still something that you struggle with?
It really is, because, and like I was talking to someone from the school, they set us up in small groups so that at the end of each week we can process with people. And so they asked me, they're like, so, you know, after I shared my story, they asked me how if I could see myself, where was I in the process? And I was like, well, I am confident in the goodness of God. I'm confident that He's there, that He speaks, that He's in my life. I still don't trust Him though. And just being able to just acknowledge that that's really going to be something that I'm going to have to work through. And I'm just seeing Him come through for me in so many areas since losing John. I mean, He provided I was able to pay for a brand new car cash. I was able to, like, just this whole move has just been, I felt God wanted me to move here, and just all the doors just kind of waltzed, you know, everything just opened easy, and I was able to like waltz right up here. And even the patent blog going viral was a response to the fact that I really, truly felt God was telling me to write, and that the writing was going to launch where He was calling me to go. So, like, I've seen His evidence in my life, and I've seen that He's come through for me, and I know He's good. It's just still in my heart. There's those questions that are hindering my ability to truly trust Him again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, one of the questions you list here is, it's great that my writing is going the direction I dreamed it would go, but why did it have to come at the expense of my husband's life? And that's a really tough question, because that is part of why your writing is so compelling, is because you're talking about something very traumatic that happened in your own life. But it's like, yes, you're getting the success, but it's all kind of wrapped in this tragedy, and it's like, could this not have happened any other way?
Some other way?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you can write other things. You know what I mean? So,
right. Why couldn't I have won the lottery and blogged about what that's like?
Oh man, that's my dream career path right there. That's perfect. Yeah. No. So that definitely is a struggle, because I've felt like, writing has been part of who I am from the beginning, and I felt that of wanting to write books. Now I was working on books like fiction, but even like some of the topics on my blog that I address that aren't necessarily specifically about the grief and the story, I felt like I was supposed to teach, and even before, like maybe 2 months before, my husband had talked to me. He's like, you should start a vlog, like, and just talk about things. Like, I tend to be the person people come to for advice, and I've always kind of played that role. So you should start a blog, and like, so I actually started researching what it would be like to do that, and like how to make a platform and all these things. So it was like, it wasn't like after it happened, it just occurred to me, hey, maybe I should start being up, like speaking publicly or talking to people about things. And that's something that was kind of always in my heart. It just kind of sucks that the success came because of what happened, instead of something, that grew. There's lots of people who have blogs and things that have a large following that didn't necessarily happen because of something so traumatic. Oh, yeah, exactly. And they just get to have endorsement deals from vacation spots, and they get to be paid to go on vacation. Like, what?
I want that gig, too.
Yeah, when you figure that out, let me know how that happens, because I'm not sure.
I'd love to start writing about happy things, and people are always like, your blog makes me cry. I'm like, I would love to be able to write about stuff that, doesn't make people cry.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But you did mention about public speaking, and that is something I wanted to ask you about, only because I read your thing about anxiety and having that, and it seems like, first of all, anxiety's got to be, this has got to be a situation where it's like, well, it's the most justifying thing for your anxiety, because, like, look, something terrible did happen, and now you're anxious all the time, and look, maybe you need to be anxious all the time, your body's telling you, and how do you fight that along with grieving? And then also public speaking is one of the more terrifying things that a person can do, and I imagine anxiety figures into that. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a weird personality type when it comes to that. Public speaking thing is, if I stand up on a stage in front of like 200 people, I can talk and it's fine. It's like the socializing and mingling with that same crowd afterwards, that is what would give me the anxiety. I'm super high introvert, but I can teach, but on a stage there's almost like a separation between them and myself, so like that actually doesn't give me any anxiety. It's the having to do the mingling afterwards when you speak. That's the part that gives me the anxiety.
Right, exactly. Well, when you're up there speaking, it's not one-on-one. It's just you're pretty much private in public, you know what I mean? You're doing something by yourself, but other people can see you, as opposed to just one-on-one. So. Right.
Yeah, but since the time I wrote about having anxiety, it's actually kind of gone down some. I wrote that in the middle of, there was just a storm going on. I'm trying to remember, but I had a number of things all happen to me at once, and it just kind of skyrocketed my anxiety. My parents started going through the process of a divorce, and I was living with them, so I had a front row seat. And then within my friend group, one of the wives saw me as a threat to her husband, like in her marriage. So I had to essentially bow out of my main social circle. So there was that, and then there's like a number of other, like, all these things happening to me at once. And it was also right around the 1 year anniversary of John's passing. So I was just in an anxiety storm, basically, at the time when I wrote that. So things have kind of calmed down some in that area. It's still something I struggle with. It's just not quite as intense as when I wrote that particular blog post.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I did want to ask you about that, because I did read that in that part of your blog where you said that people see, and this is kind of a general problem you describe with widows being around people that are married, and the wives maybe thinking that they're gonna steal their husbands, I guess. I don't know I don't know, but it's a thing. Like, I posted in one of the widow groups I'm part of, and I had like maybe 60 other widows saying, "Yep, that happened to me." Wow.
And I think part of it, is we have widows, young widows, have the whole damsel in distress thing that triggers the guys to want to help and respond and have compassion for. And then also, I think I was just thinking about this the other day, because I had a conversation about this exact topic. But I think there's also this thing where, like, we were wanted by another man who would not have left, at least most of it, and so it's not like it was a breakup or a divorce where, it could have been their fault. So it's like, I'm still kind of processing it, but it's kind of like they were loved, and it wasn't like they were the person, like there was something wrong with him, so the husband chose to leave. It wasn't their fault, so they were like, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling because I'm not. No,
I think I understand what you're saying. It's kind of hard to imagine for me too, because if you're the type of person that would like leave your spouse, there's single people out there you could leave your spouse for. You don't need to like just that aren't widows. You know what I mean? That you could, if that's what you're gonna do. There's plenty other ways. Heck, there's other married people you could leave your spouse for. You know what I mean? So if that's in your plans, there's other ways to do it besides just the nearest widow you can find, I guess.
Right. But I think we're perceived as more desirable, when it comes to an insecure wife. We're considered, I think they think maybe we're, I don't know.
Like you're looking for something that you had but now lost, and now you're going to take whatever, I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of strange.
Like, we lost our husband, so we're going to steal yours.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of weird psychology there going on. But the other one you listed in that list, I think that was part of the list in one of your blogs that you mentioned. And then you also mentioned that someone stole a blog of yours and passed it off as their own. What the heck was that? Yes. I don't understand. Your writing is so personal. How can you steal someone's writing like that?
I know. And the blog they stole was my letter to my future husband. And they just, I know, they reworded it to make it from the guy's point of view and put it as fiction. So instead of it was just saying the perspective of a widower or something. I don't know, but it like the whole sections were word for word. And the thing is, she was an editor for like this large blog platform, which for me boggles my mind. I'm like, you're paid to do this. You should know better. So, but she flat out denied any. She's like, maybe we came up with similar concepts. And so one of my friends took both blogs side by side and highlighted all of the word for word and phrase for phrase, and then posted it on her blog. And she deleted that, so he posted it on her Twitter. So, because you can't delete that.
Jeez.
But yeah, no, she flat out denied it and was acting like a victim, basically, that we were just attacking her.
Wow.
Which I ended up not doing anything. I found out about that the night before taking my daughter to Disney for the first time with the family. So it was like, there's a lot of stuff going to be going on that weekend. Like, I don't have time for this. So I have a couple friends who kind of took over the social media justice aspect of that. And basically, by the time I was come home from Disney, it was all sorted, which was nice.
Well, that's good. Well,
One less thing I had to worry about.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
my son is very excited.
Oh, no, that's okay. My son is a unintentional co-host on pretty much every episode, one way or another. So, but yeah, no, he gets in when he can. But that's really interesting that someone would do that. Like I said, because your writing is so personal that somebody thinks they could pass it off as their own is just mind-boggling to me. But,
and the fact that she wasn't even a widow, like if it was another widow who read my writing and was like, you know what, I understand how that feels, and I'm gonna take pieces and because this is exactly how I feel. Like I would have a little bit more empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I get it. I mean, it would have been nice if she would have, tagged me or quoted me or whatever, which I've had a number of widows quote me, but they always, cite their source. But if it was another widow who plagiarized me, that would, I don't know, I feel like I would be a little understanding because they understand and they feel that personally. No, it was just some lady who wanted to further her career and copied my
goodness gracious,
my work.
Okay, well that's something. Okay, but yeah. So I did want to start talking about your 3-part series here because I did think it was pretty interesting. Now to start out with, why did you make it a 3-part series? Did you want to keep people cliffhanger on the end of everything?
Well,
you did.
I did. Initially, it was just going to be 2. I was going to talk about my side, and then we were going to do the back and forth, the 3rd part. But I realized that the first part was getting really long, and so I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to break. I'm going to have to break the part 1 up into 2 parts, and that's basically how that ended up happening. Because I just wanted people. I wrote it for everybody, but also for just. I don't know. I felt like I wanted to make sure people understood the background, that this wasn't something we just jumped into, and also that it wasn't even something I was really pursuing or looking for. So that, and I mean, we have 11 years of foundation, so it's kind of hard to sum that up in a blog. And I think the rules, like the rule of thumb is like you're supposed to keep blogs under like 1,000 words, which I break all the time.
Oops.
But that one was like approaching 250, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to stop and then just make it 3 parts. So
yeah, but did it take a long time to like just think about writing this at all? Because this is a very sensitive subject. If people haven't read it, this is about, you want to describe what it's about for people that don't?
Yeah, so I was basically, the blog was my like coming out of the fact that I'm dating again, and it was just kind of the background story of how that came to be. So, but I knew, like, some months ago I had decided, okay, I'm going to have, if this thing happens, I want to write about it because, one, I know a lot of our friends and family had suspicions, and then also just for it didn't, like it was out of the blue. It really wasn't. It was like a slow burn. And I wanted to be able to just tell that story. And it's a fun story, and I'm like, I want to talk about happy things too. So, talking about, starting a new relationship for the first time was a lot of fun. Truly, it was a lot of fun. Thinking back and remembering on some things, and writing the third one where we wrote it together. That was actually a lot of fun. I was a bit nervous because I've never co-wrote anything with anyone. And, I mean, he has his own blog that he writes on occasionally. Not like as consistent as I write, but so I knew he could write well. Otherwise I wouldn't have asked him. But just, the flow, how it was going to flow and everything. But that ended up working out really easy. It was actually one of the fastest blogs I've ever written because we just kind of sat down and went back and forth and it was done.
What was the reaction to the series? Did you get any negative pushback in the kind of vein of your Patton Oswalt piece, or at least in your end?
No, there was really no negative anything.
That's good.
I think that Patton Oswalt blog did its job. So if anybody wanted to be negative, they already knew my thoughts on the matter.
Right. True. But
they probably kept their peace.
Yeah, they probably did. But this is, like you said, someone that you've known for a long time. Did that make it easier to get back into the dating arena because it was somebody that you knew so well?
Yeah, I don't think I would have been ready for like a stranger, like just to sit in front of, for a first date and look at someone and be like, I hope you're not crazy. Like, I've seen the dating pool from the outside, and it's not fun. I don't think. Like, in my mind, I don't feel like it's fun. And I've got kids, and I'm busy. I don't have time for the drama in the game, and so I wouldn't have actively sought out like somebody new. But the fact that he was someone I knew I could trust, someone that we already had like a foundation together, that, there a lot of the questions you wonder in the first couple months of like dating someone, we really didn't have to go through, so we already knew each other pretty well.
Right. But I mean, did that also present a problem on the other end? Because, as you said, if, this doesn't work, I mean, either way, if it does work out or if it doesn't work out, the time in your life where you were just friends is basically over. You know what I mean?
Right.
Once you decide to make that leap. So was that...
Yeah. So, I mean, it does, but and there are a lot of... still complications in our lives with his. I mean, right now he's in Europe, so the time change means he's going to bed, while I'm making dinner. So like the time change makes it hard to have conversations and just those kind of things. But also just, I mean, with his job and with my life with my kids, and there are a lot of obstacles still, and so we're both very aware of them, and but we have kind of already talked about that if it doesn't work out, it'll be sad, but we won't be hurt, and that we won't regret trying, because I think in the end, that's why I decided to just tell him how I felt, because if I didn't and I just moved on with my life, I feel like I would have always wondered what would have happened if.
Oh yeah.
So if it doesn't work out, then we know what would have happened. Like we know we tried. We want it to work out for sure. We're like currently trying to figure out logistics of when I'll get to see him again, sometime in December probably. So we want to make it work for sure, and we're hoping some sort of door opens that'll make a relationship a little bit easier. But we both care about each other a lot, and at this point, whatever is best for each other, we want to have happen, whether that's a relationship in the future together or not. We just want to try.
Sure, absolutely. Now, he's in Europe until December, or he's kind of coming home temporarily in December. And where is he based out of?
So he goes all over. So he's done the Caribbean. He's done Alaska. He works. So for the people who don't know or haven't read, he works on a cruise line. So he's the assistant cruise director, and so he goes all over the place, and it's all based like on contracts. So which mostly they're about 3 months. So his family lives in Florida, in the same town as I used to live, and so between contracts, when he takes a break, he just stays with them, because it doesn't really make sense for him to have a house that he's only in, every 3 months that he's in for a couple weeks. So he leaves some of his things there, but mostly he's out on the boat, and So that's kind of how that works. And so he doesn't really know what his next contract is until he finishes the one he's on.
Right. Okay. What do you guys do to kind of keep that connection going while you're so far away? I mean, you said you're kind of on different schedules, but I'm sure there's, Yeah.
Facebook Messenger is really our main connect, because the internet there is really sketchy. So we do phone calls, but we have to coordinate that. But mostly, we just shoot each other messages throughout the day. And,
awesome.
That's basically
Gotcha.
What we have to do for now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, another post I wanted to ask you about was 20 Songs, My Soundtrack of Overcoming, which was interesting to me because I remember you'd said you'd had a lot of trouble with music before, but sounds like you've been able to kind of integrate it back in your life a little bit. So.
Yeah, so a lot of what it was the music that John played. I had to avoid, which was difficult because he played a lot from a lot of genres. I was
gonna say.
And so most of those songs, actually, except for the one, those songs are not things he played, and most of them I actually just kind of discovered this year.
Right.
So, and so that was a fun one. I kind of had that one in mind as I'm going to be moving this week and I'm not going to have time to write. So let's just post some music, people like that.
Absolutely. Now I also saw where you're going to be on the Today Show in November. Is that right?
October.
October when?
So October 13th.
13th. Okay, great.
So they emailed me out of the blue last week, and I was able to get in contact with them, have a conversation with them on Monday. And so basically they're going to be having Patton Oswalt on the show, talk about, he's got a new Netflix special, I think, and some other things. And they also want to talk about his loss and then his new relationship. And they thought it'd be really cool for me to be able to come on for a bit. So I won't be like sitting in his chair next to him, which would have been super cool, but I totally understand why I'm not. They're going to have me like in a VIP box section of the audience, mic'd up, and then I'll be able to, they'll ask me some questions whenever the time comes. So, but they're flying me up to New York. I've never been there before, so I'm really super excited. And they're covering my travel expenses, which is great.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Well, that's awesome. Right? We'll definitely watch that. So you've also gotten a fair amount of interest from publishers since all this happened, right? What's the status with that?
So I have had an agent and 2 different publishers contact me, all like within a week or 2 of my move. So basically I had a back and forth with each of them, and I was like, listen, I'm going to be moving across the state with 2 kids, so I'm not going to be able to start really getting serious about writing until September, so I'm going to get back to you then. So I'm just now starting to like re-establish conversations with them, just because, moving with kids is pretty difficult. So I'm really excited about that. I've been really thinking on what I want to say in a book and what that'll look like. So but yeah, so it's all very much like preliminary conversations. There's no like contract or anything signed, but I have an open door, which that's a writer's dream. Usually you have to sit and knock on doors for years. I have a friend of mine she published a young adult fantasy just recently, and she worked hard to get the open door that I have now.
Oh yeah.
That was just handed to me. So and that's one of those things where I'm like, I might not trust God, but He's clearly opening doors for me.
Yeah,
so,
something's happening. So
something's happening. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Would this? I mean, I know you're still in the preliminary stages and everything, but are you going to use kind of the same model as your blog? Or are you thinking about writing about it from a different angle or a different direction, or what's your vision for it now, as such as it is?
So I actually have a couple different books in mind, two that are more thought out and one that's kind of just like an idea. But the thing that resonated with people the most with the blog that went viral was my concept of an expanding heart. And so I think that'll be my first one, and it will really mostly just focus on my love for John and learning, like processing that, and then learning how to open my heart again for someone new. And so I think that'll be kind of the focus on that one. And then the second one will be more about the faith walk of it. So how I've been able to keep my faith when, like, you know, everything went to crap, basically. So that will be more the theme of the second one. But I wanted to do the one on love first because I felt like that appeals to everybody. And just kind of focus on that story.
Well, that's good that you're focusing on that idea, because that is a very powerful idea, because, you know, people in our society seem to think there's only enough room for a certain amount of people or whatever, and it's like, not really. That's not how it works. So that's a good thing to focus on, I think. So, well, is there anything else I didn't ask you about that you'd want to get in there before we go?
Not that I can think of. We've covered a lot of the stuff that has happened recently, and I think most other things that we've covered here. And my kids are getting antsy. Yep,
mine are too. That's part of why I need to get off. So. But anyway, it was good talking to you again, and good luck with everything, and I'll definitely be watching for your thing on the Today Show. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool, thank you so much. Great.
All right,
bye.
Bye.
If you enjoy this podcast, there are several ways to support it. I have a Patreon account which can be found at www.patreon.com/Rob Burgess Show Patreon. I hope you'll consider supporting in any amount. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast everywhere it's available, which includes iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Facebook, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, and RSS. It really helps. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgesshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. Until next time.